Everybody, thanks for signing in. Today we're going to be talking about different resources to learn skills in conservation. So basically capacity building, individual capacity building. And this is a subject I'm really excited about because I believe very strongly in being able to skill build individually and being able to kind of pick up things as you go. A lot of what you can learn is on YouTube and on online forums and stuff. So we're going to go through a few great forums that have personally helped me when I've been trying to pick up skills, especially technical skills in conservation, but other resources as well. So for those of you who are new, I'm Gabi, and I'm a conservation biologist, and this is Breaking Bio, which is a platform to discuss issues with diversity and conservation, and also just ways to help build the field. We're also going to be extending past conservation into STEM on many different occasions and many other fields as well. So yeah, welcome. So the first resource I want to talk about is with the American Museum of Natural History. This is ncep.amnh.org. What this is that there actually is 170 plus modules available on their website, which I just found out a couple of weeks ago. And they're grouped under different conservation headers, so things like different specific classes will be grouped under certain headers. And that's a really great resource to look at. There's downloadable materials for if you're in the field and you kind of need to check things out kind of at your own pace. So I definitely recommend that. There's also just kind of basic courses on Coursera and EDX. I will say with MOOCs I've kind of had a little bit of a mixed feeling about them because although they're really useful in many cases, they're also not really always targeted towards exactly what you need. Papaco does a really great one on conservation in Africa specifically, so protected area conservation. I'll leave all of these links down below, so don't worry about trying to take any notes. It will all be available. So that's quite good. And then there's also another course called, well, several courses under United for Wildlife platform, and those kind of go into general things in conservation biology, kind of more conceptual things, and then there's also more specific courses. I believe there's one on project management, and there's one on I think illegal wildlife trade. So there's a lot of different options with that as well. And for all of these, there's usually a lot of different collaborators involved. And again, I'll put the link down below. So with MOOCs, I have a lot of feelings in terms of that they are really useful, but they take a lot of kind of motivation to get through because it's really easy to drop a class that you haven't had to pay for or that kind of no one's kind of looking at your own time than you. So I suggest just kind of coming up with a schedule for yourself and kind of a goal as to what success would look like for you to be able to excel in a particular skill. And for something like R or QGIS, that's like open source software. R, for those of you who don't know, is a statistical package. It's free, it's open source, and it's very flexible for data analysis. And then QGIS is kind of the open source version of ArcGIS, so it's spatial software, so it allows you to do spatial statistics and maps and things like that. So those are both really great programs, and there's huge communities online to assist with that, and I'll put a few links below. The major thing I use for R is called QuickR, and QuickR is a great online community that gives kind of tips and tricks, and you can post questions, and that's always really helpful. So the people there are really great. Let's see, other resources I can think of. If you're interested in conservation technology or you want to reach out kind of interdisciplinary research, so you want to work with things like people like programmers or engineers, or you just kind of want to ask methodological questions about what you're working on, whether that's conservation canines or scat dogs or camera trapping or anything like that. That's a great forum for you to check out. So that's wildlabs.net. I'll also share that link down below. And that's a free forum you sign up to. All these resources are free, by the way, because I really want to kind of make sure that you guys know that. So it is kind of open access and it's free. I won't be sharing anything here that costs anything to take as a course. So wildlabs.net is great. I'm an active member, so I'm kind of doing a little shout out there. But I've met friends and colleagues from all over the world, and They do a lot of really great things like hackathons and um, different projects that people can work on, but also it's just a great forum to ask questions and to share information all over the world and from many different fields. So wildlabs.net. So let's see. Another one that's really good is I think I've breezed through most of them actually. So those are the major ones. I would definitely say that if you have someone who is into conservation and kind of just starting out, United for Wildlife courses are really great because, again, like I mentioned, they kind of are more conceptual and more based on kind of like the basics of the field. They talk about what conservation is and how we kind of do a little bit of measures and metrics. So that's a great place to start for intensive skill development. I would look more at things like online communities like QuickR or any of the communities that work with QGIS, and I'll link them down below. And finally, if you're interested in programming, so a lot more people are using Python now, which is a programming language, to help optimize a lot of the different work that they're doing. If you're interested in learning that, you're interested in learning the S language for R, any kind of programming work, I really suggest DataCamp. So DataCamp is mostly free, but you can kind of pay for more advanced options. I think for R, it is free through the beginner's level. But they have a great intro to R class to just kind of learn how to do basic R and kind of how the basic coding works. And because you have to customize your code depending on what you're working on, so you can't use like the same code to measure distance sampling as you would for other things like, you know, looking at population demographics and things like that. So because you're going to have to customize it, that's why things like QuickR is really useful, because you're able to kind of ask those questions and look at what other people have done. But just to get a basic sense of like, how does the interface work if you're using RStudio? How, you know, do you create different like data frames and things like that? DataCamp is awesome. And the reason why I really recommend that to people as a part to kind of just more passive courses where you watch videos is that they have a system where you can actually type your code into kind of their interface window. So you're basically learning by coding, and then it corrects your code as you're going through, which is really helpful because then you're kind of doing more practical work and you're kind of figuring out how to solve these problems. And that's another thing I really suggest is when you're learning tech, you can just kind of do academic, just kind of studying it or reading about it, but you're not really going to get a sense of how to problem solve on your own. So you want to look for courses or for experiences that kind of help you learn as you go. So honestly, a lot of what I've learned, especially for QGIS, because I learned it when I was in the bush in Namibia and our ArcMap license ran out, I learned them all through YouTube, honestly. I would literally put in how to make a map on QGIS on YouTube. And the great thing about a lot of spatial software is that although the interfaces are they're different and they look different, things are stored different places, they kind of do similar things. So once you kind of know one, you can kind of adapt it to another. So I YouTubed and I had to look at human-wildlife conflict data in several conservancies in Namibia, and I literally went on some online forums and typed in some questions, got them answered by some really helpful people. But a lot of the time I literally went on YouTube and watched people just kind of who had done videos on, on how to solve these different issues, and they do walkthroughs, which is really helpful because you're able to kind of see how other people have done it kind of as they're doing it. And now they're doing all kinds of different webinars as well. I just did one for Global Forest Watch Pro, which helps you look at investment in commodities to measure deforestation. So that was really helpful. So a lot of different programs will also do webinars. So if you're interested in a particular thing that you're interested in learning, just keep an eye out for any webinars that they might do, because that you can kind of log in through Zoom and watch these webinars. And a lot of the time they're really helpful and they're free a lot of the time as well. So that's really awesome. So yeah, so those are kind of my main ideas as to different resources to look at for capacity building. There are so many more. So if anyone's watching this wants to put down kind of in the comments any ideas that they have, that would be great. But yeah, it's a good place to start you off. And just so you guys know, as I've mentioned before on the channel, we have our 2 interviews of the 2 founders. But in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be doing several more interviews as well. We're going to be interviewing different people from conservation, but also outside of conservation. So please watch this space, and yeah, hope to see you back. If you're interested in kind of knowing when things are being posted, please click the red subscribe button right underneath this video. And yeah, see you next week. Bye.